What if I told you that Alzheimer's disease begins destroying your brain up to 20 years before you ever forget a single name? 20 years. While you're laughing at family dinners, while you're driving to work, while you think everything is perfectly fine. Right now, someone you love, maybe a parent, a spouse, maybe even yourself, could be in the very early stages of this disease, and there are zero visible signs. No memory lapses, no confusion, nothing that would make you worry. That is what makes Alzheimer's the cruelest thief in the world. It doesn't kick down the door. It slips in through an unlocked window, quietly, slowly, stealing pieces of a person's mind long before anyone realizes something is wrong. But here's what most people don't know, and what the medical community is only beginning to fully understand. There are warning signs, hidden ones, and if you know what to look for, you have a fighting chance. Stay with me until section 4, because what I'm going to reveal there could genuinely change the future for your family. Welcome. This channel is dedicated to one mission, bringing you honest, research-backed information about brain health, dementia, and Alzheimer's disease. The kind of information that can actually make a difference in your family's life. And if you're watching this today, I already know something about you. You're here because someone in your life has been touched by this disease, or because something in the back of your mind is whispering a fear you've been and something you're not quite ready to name out loud. I want you to know you are in the right place. Let me tell you about a man named David. He was 58 years old, sharp as a tack, a retired engineer, Sunday crossword champion, the person everyone called when something needed to be figured out. His family noticed small things first. He repeated a question he'd just asked minutes before. He seemed to lose track of conversations mid-sentence. They laughed it off. "Dad's just tired. It's stress. It happens to everyone." It wasn't until David couldn't recognize his youngest granddaughter at her birthday party that they realized the signs had been there for years. They just hadn't known what they were looking at. Stories like David's play out in millions of families every single year, and the tragedy isn't just the disease itself, it's the lost time. The years that could have been spent getting proper diagnosis, starting treatment, and making the most of every precious moment. In this video, you're going to learn exactly what happens inside the brain during the hidden, early stages of Alzheimer's, what the subtle warning signs actually look like, why most people, and even many doctors, miss them, and what the latest science says you can do about it. By the time this video ends, you will know more about early Alzheimer's detection than most people ever will. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button right now, because every week we publish research-backed brain health content that your doctor may simply not have time to tell you in a 10-minute appointment. You deserve better than that. B-roll cue, split screen, brain scan on left, family at doctor's office on right now. Let's pull back the curtain on what's really happening inside the brain, and why time is the one thing we can never afford to waste. Point 1. The 20-year head start. How Alzheimer's moves before you know it. Here's the question that changes everything. If Alzheimer's is a memory disease, why do people lose their memories so late in the process? The answer lies in a protein called beta amyloid. Under normal conditions, your brain produces this protein and clears it away efficiently, like a well-run waste disposal system. But in people who will develop Alzheimer's, something goes wrong with that system. The amyloid isn't cleared. It begins to clump together into what scientists call plaques, sticky, toxic deposits that build up between nerve cells. According to research published by the National Institute on Aging, this process can begin 15 to 20 years before the first symptom appears. Let that sink in. 2 decades of silent damage, and all the while, the person is living their normal life, completely unaware. I know what you're thinking. How is that even possible? How can the brain be damaged for 20 years and still function? The answer is one of the most remarkable things about the human brain. It compensates. It reroutes. It finds alternative pathways. The brain is so adaptive that it can mask enormous levels of damage before it finally runs out of workarounds. But by the time symptoms appear, the damage is already extensive. Point 2. Tau tangles. The second silent saboteur most people have never heard of. Now, plaques are only half the story. And this is the part that surprised even me when I first researched it deeply. Inside each neuron in your brain, there is a microscopic transportation system, like tiny railway tracks, that carries nutrients and signals from one end of the cell to the other. These tracks are stabilized by a protein called tau. In a healthy brain, tau does its job quietly and efficiently. But in Alzheimer's disease, tau proteins become abnormally twisted and clump together into what researchers call neurofibrillary tangles. These tangles collapse the internal railway tracks of the neuron. The cell can no longer transport what it needs, and slowly, it dies. A landmark study from Washington University School of Medicine found that tau tangles tend to spread through the brain in a predictable pattern, and that the areas affected first are the ones responsible for forming new memories. This is why forgetting recent events while remembering old ones is often one of the first noticeable signs. The past is stored, but the recording equipment for the present is breaking down. Point 3. The warning signs your doctor might not ask about. But here's A's where it gets really important. And most doctors never mention this part. Most people think early Alzheimer's looks like forgetting names, losing keys, or getting confused about dates. And yes, those can be symptoms. But the earliest warning signs are far more subtle and far more specific. The first is something researchers call subtle episodic memory lapses. This isn't forgetting where you put your glasses. It's forgetting entire conversations that happened an hour ago. Asking the same question 3 times in the same afternoon. Not being able to recall whether you took your medication today, not because you're busy, but because the event simply didn't form as a memory. The second early warning is something called apathy, and it is one of the most overlooked symptoms in early-stage Alzheimer's. A person who was once curious, engaged, and social gradually becomes withdrawn. They lose interest in hobbies they loved. They stop initiating conversations. Family members often mistake this for depression, and while the two can coexist, apathy in the context of early cognitive decline is neurologically distinct and critically important to recognize. The third subtle sign is difficulty with spatial reasoning and navigation, getting lost on a familiar route, struggling to judge distances or read a map, having trouble following a recipe that was once second nature. These aren't signs of getting old. They are the early fingerprints of neurological change. Point 4. Who is most at risk, and why family history isn't the whole story. Now I know what you're thinking. My mother had Alzheimer's. Am I next? This is one of the most common fears people carry, and it deserves a clear, honest answer. Genetics do play a role. Having a first-degree relative with Alzheimer's disease does increase your risk, and a specific gene variant, called APOE4, is the most well-established genetic risk factor identified by scientists. Carrying 1 copy of this gene roughly doubles your risk. Carrying 2 copies increases it significantly more. But here is something profoundly important. Genetics are not destiny. Studies, including the groundbreaking finger trial from Finland, have shown that lifestyle interventions, diet, physical activity, cognitive stimulation, and cardiovascular health management can significantly reduce the risk of cognitive decline, even in genetically predisposed individuals. Your genes load the gun. Your lifestyle choices have a powerful say in whether it fires. Point 5. The new science of early detection. What testing can actually tell you today? Here's the piece of this puzzle that represents one of the most exciting and genuinely hopeful developments in modern medicine. For decades, Alzheimer's disease could only be definitively diagnosed after death through examination of brain tissue. During a patient's lifetime, diagnosis was based on symptoms and clinical judgment. But that has changed dramatically. Today, PET brain scans can detect amyloid plaque accumulation in living patients before symptoms develop. Spinal fluid tests can measure levels of amyloid and tau proteins, providing direct evidence of biological changes years before memory loss begins. And most recently, researchers have developed blood-based biomarker tests that show remarkable promise for detecting Alzheimer's-related changes through a simple blood draw. A 2023 study published in JAMA Neurology found that certain blood biomarkers, specifically phosphorylated tau-217, could predict Alzheimer's pathology with an accuracy rate above 90% in some patient populations. That is not a small development. That is a revolution. Catching this disease early, before symptoms rob a person of their independence, is the single, most powerful tool we have, and that window is opening. I need to stop here and just acknowledge something. If you've made it this far in this video, there's a very good chance that what you're hearing isn't just information. It's personal. Maybe you're watching because you've already noticed something in someone you love. Maybe you're watching because you're frightened for yourself. Whatever brought you here, I want you to hear this directly. What you're feeling is valid. This is hard, and you are not facing it alone. So let's talk about what you can actually do, because knowledge without action is just fear with more details. Here are 5 concrete steps you can take. starting today. Step 1. Request a cognitive baseline assessment. If you or someone you love is over 60 or has a family history of Alzheimer's, talk to your doctor about establishing a cognitive baseline. This means conducting standardized tests like the MoCA, Montreal Cognitive Assessment, that measure memory, attention, language, and spatial reasoning. These tests take about 10 minutes, but they create a reference point. If something changes over the next few years, you have hard data to compare against. Many people skip this step simply because they don't know to ask for it. Now you do. Step 2. Address cardiovascular risk factors aggressively. The same things that destroy your heart also destroy your brain. High blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, obesity, high cholesterol, and smoking are all established risk factors for Alzheimer's disease. The Lancet Commission on Dementia Prevention estimates that up to 40% of dementia cases worldwide could potentially be prevented or delayed by addressing modifiable risk factors. If you're not managing your blood pressure or blood sugar, start today. Talk to your doctor. This isn't optional. This is brain protection. Step 3. Move your body like your brain depends on it. Because it does. Regular aerobic exercise increases blood flow to the brain, promotes the growth of new neurons, and reduces amyloid accumulation. A study from the University of British Columbia found that regular aerobic exercise increases the size of the hippocampus, the brain's memory center, by approximately 2% in older adults. That's a measurable physical improvement in the structure most threatened by Alzheimer's. 30 minutes of brisk walking, 5 days a week, is not a small thing. It is medicine. Step 4. Keep the brain challenged and socially connected. Social isolation is one of the strongest risk factors for cognitive decline. Stronger than many people realize. Staying mentally and socially active, through learning new skills, reading, engaging in meaningful conversations, participating in community, maintains the neural connections your brain needs. This isn't about doing crossword puzzles every day, though that doesn't hurt. It's about purposeful engagement with the world and with other people. Step 5. Know your family history and talk openly about it. One of the most powerful things a family can do is simply have the conversation. Know your family medical history. If a parent or sibling was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, tell your doctor. Discuss genetic testing options with a genetic counselor. And if you're a caregiver watching someone you love change, document what you're observing, dates, behaviors, changes, and bring it to a specialist. Specificity saves time, and time saves lives. To every caregiver watching this right now, I see you. The sleepless nights, the grief of watching someone you love become someone unfamiliar, the weight of 100 decisions made alone. You are doing one of the most profoundly difficult things a human being can do. Your sacrifice is not invisible. Your love is not wasted. And you deserve support, rest, and care too. Not just the person you're caring for. To every patient, whether you have been diagnosed or simply sense that something is changing, you are not defined by this disease. Your memories, your loves, your story, these things matter. You matter. And every day that you engage, fight, and stay connected is a victory worth celebrating. There is a woman named Margaret, 71 years old, diagnosed with early-stage Alzheimer 3 years ago after her daughter noticed subtle behavioral changes and pushed for testing. Because they caught it early, Margaret was able to begin treatment, make legal and financial arrangements with full clarity, and spend 3 intentional, deeply meaningful years with her grandchildren, traveling, recording memories, saying everything that needed to be said. Her daughter told me, "We didn't get cheated out of time. We chose to use every second of what we had." That is what early detection makes possible. You are not alone in this journey, and you are taking the right steps just by being informed. Before we close, let me leave you with the 3 most important things from today's video, because these are the ideas I want you to carry with you. First, Alzheimer's begins silently, up to 20 years before visible symptoms appear, which means early action is not just helpful, it is the single most powerful thing you can do. Second, the early warning signs are subtle. Repeated questions, apathy, spatial read, disorientation, and knowing them means the difference between acting early and acting too late. Third, there is hope. Real, science-backed hope. From blood biomarker testing to lifestyle interventions to the deep power of human connection and early care, we have more tools today than ever before, and we are not done discovering more. This topic is personal to me. Because behind every statistic, every brain scan, every clinical trial, there is a person. There is a family. There is someone who laughed and loved and built a life, and who deserves to be fought for with everything we have. That's why this channel exists. That's why this video exists. And that's why you're here. I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, has someone in your family been affected by Alzheimer's or dementia? You don't have to share more than you're comfortable with. Even just leaving a heart in the comments lets this community know you're here, and that you are not carrying this alone. This community is here for you. If this video helped you, or if you think it could help even one other family, please hit the like button right now. It takes 1 second, and it tells YouTube to show this video to more families who need this information. That like button is how we reach people who are searching for answers at 2 a.m., not knowing where to turn. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Because next week, we're going deep on something that affects almost every Alzheimer's caregiver, but almost no one talks about: caregiver burnout, its neurological effects, and how to protect your own brain while you're protecting someone else's. You don't want to miss that one. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring enough to learn. And remember this: the mind forgets, but love never does. Take care of yourself, take care of each other, and we'll see you next day.